have the morning been?
The morning's been good. I have 3 young children, so they're off to school, and it was snowing a little bit here this morning, but had some breakfast. This is a really wonderful way to start the day, actually.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I understand that you get really cold winters as well.
Very cold. And it's been interesting because we actually had like a polar vortex that came on the weekend where temperatures dropped like significantly.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was abnormal. I would say that was a bit abnormal, but usually around this time of year, we do get quite a few weeks of pretty cold weather.
Yeah.
But probably by March, so in the next month, things will start warming up again and spring will be here.
Yeah.
I find it goes pretty quick.
Yeah. It's the best thing, I think, just with the year having, what do you call it? Årstider, we say here. The spring and summer and
fall and winter, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's nice to experience all the different seasons.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you have any questions?
I don't think so. I really enjoy just kind of going with the flow. I read over the questions just briefly, like what could come up this morning or today.
No big surprises.
No big surprises. Yeah. Oh, how long were you wanting the interview to go for? I noticed on the Feng Shui-podden that some were like 45 minutes, some I saw were an hour, or do you just it just sort of flows? And
usually I try to these guest, what do you say, avsnitt?
Guest episodes, perhaps?
Yeah, the guest episodes. I try to have like 1 hour as a maximum. But some I just recorded a guest episode last week and it was like 20 minutes or something, but it was just a real spontaneous thing. So so but like a maximum 1 hour, but maybe we'll talk, I don't know, a little bit longer if we feel for it. But and if there's something afterwards that you feel like, no, you have to take this part away, or I just want to answer like in another way, it's okay to just time out. I can cut that part away.
Right. Okay. So you do edit the recording and
I'm not really good at it, but I try.
You have the technology and some experience with it.
Yeah, learning by doing.
Yeah. I will say your English is like perfect.
You think? Oh,
yeah,
thank
it's
you.
Really, really good. I mean, of course you have an accent, but I mean, like you're very well conversed in English.
Oh, thank you. I'm so nervous right now, so I don't know if I'm gonna get a total blackout or.
That's okay. We've got editing.
Yeah. So in Google Translate, I think.
Right.
No, but I like to talk English. Like one of my best friends are from England.
Okay. Yeah.
But now I've lived in another town for like 7 years, so I don't talk English that much.
Okay.
Nowadays, but when I was younger, I really loved to.
Okay. Right.
But we'll see how this goes. It's my first time in the podcast recording in another language. So
wow, congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah.
When I was posting the story or reposting, I guess, and sharing your story on Instagram, I was like, well, it's an international podcast. I mean, we've got an international guest. I mean, I imagine you may have other guests from other countries as well, but well, it's an honor. It's really wonderful. I'm excited.
Yeah, fun. So am I. And because I've been following you on Instagram for I don't know how long, but a couple of years maybe.
Possibly. Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
And I think you are really big, like I love the way you talk about Feng Shui and you make it easy and
thank you.
Small things you can do in your everyday life to get better Feng Shui. And I love that way of working with it.
Thank you. I find that I really appreciate your approach. And
thank you.
That's why even it's interesting because, Feng Shui translates, and maybe this would be good for the podcast, but it transcends language. So even though, your posts are in another language, I'm able to use the translator very easily and, pick up on what you're expressing and communicating. Yeah. So it's really exciting. It's really wonderful to have those opportunities as well.
Yeah, it really is. And I just have a thought now. Normally my podcast, it's only the sound. I do record the video, but I've never published a video before. But I have a thought. Since you are the first international guest in my podcast, how would you feel if I published our how do you say
video?
Yeah, on
the video
YouTube?
Recording.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm definitely comfortable with that.
You are that.
I am, yes. I've been on a few others where that's what they've done as well. Like they've sort of extracted the audio for the podcasting areas, like Apple Podcasts or others, and use the video on YouTube. And I'm definitely comfortable with that. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna try to build up some courage to get myself out on YouTube. But
wonderful. Oh yes, I'd be happy to support you on that as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So how do you feel? Do you want to start the real interview?
Absolutely.
Or
yeah, I'm ready. Might have another drink of water. My throat's like a little bit congested.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Then I'm just gonna say a warm welcome to Jess Neary to the Swedish Feng Shui podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here, Tess. I'm very excited to share a little bit about my story, a little bit about my approach with Feng Shui, and coming from Canada, it means the world to be able to connect with you here in this space.
I am so grateful that you are here and willing to share both your experience and your knowledge about Feng Shui. And like we said earlier here, that Feng Shui is like, you live in Canada, I live in Sweden. It's really the opposite of the world, but we can come together through Feng Shui, and it's really awesome.
Absolutely.
And for those who are listening now and don't really know who Jess Neary are, do you want to tell the listeners who are Jess Neary and what do you do?
Absolutely. So I'm Jess Neary. I'm an interior designer and Feng Shui practitioner with Jess Neary Designs. And for the past 7 years, I've been working with clients and hosting classes and also partaking in interviews, sharing about how our space and our environment helps shape our life. And so it's been very exciting the past 7 years, but even beyond that, I feel like looking at the energy of our space has been something that I've naturally gravitated towards from a very young age. And so my education and my experience in life has just sort of aligned in this direction. So it's been really exciting to explore it further. I have gone to school and did my Bachelor of Business Administration with university, but then I've also gone and done my diploma with interior design and certification with Feng Shui Master Tisha Morris at the Earth Home School of Feng Shui for my Feng Shui certification. And my approach sort of combines, business, but also interior design and Feng Shui to creating a space that really feels good to the individual that's going to be occupying and using this space. And what I've really learned and experienced even myself is, you know, the love and care that I've been able to show in my space has reflected back into my own life, and then those in my community. So family, friends, certainly clients, but just like even the community and abroad even has really awarded some really beautiful opportunities to share that love and beauty with them as well.
Yeah, really amazing. And what it feels like a really good combination of with the business background and Feng Shui and interior design. But do you feel like the interior design and Feng Shui sometimes can collide?
Yes and no. And I think that's where, because I originally began my career in interior design, and I found that I kept coming into almost like a wall, and where more information was required to understanding our space. So yes, like with interior design, it's from a different intention and a different place of looking at a space that creates beauty. And sometimes, you know, feeling good in the space can be harder to articulate, where I feel like Feng Shui comes in and has this beautiful way of communicating, you know, how the 5 elements work in a space and how it's reflected in different colors and shapes. And also looking at how an actual, you know, space like our home office or that like main bedroom or the front entrance can influence our life in such a positive way.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like there's a bit of a difference for sure, and it can sort of collide. But it's been interesting because working with interior design and then bringing the knowledge of Feng Shui in has strengthened the interior design guidance that I've been able to provide. So I've been really very fortunate to kind of have that hybrid almost theory and approach to looking at designing space.
Yeah, that's a really nice way to looking at it, like a hybrid kind of knowledge. But like you said, because I am studying to become an interior designer as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but I started with only Feng Shui because earlier I have a bachelor degree in behavior science, and I've been working with how do you say? I just lost the word, but kriminalvård, like on in prisons and with people who have been convicted.
Okay.
So my interior design career is kind of new, but Feng Shui has always been there with me, and I've had that with me even when I've been working with my clients.
Wonderful. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So, but I can also feel like interior design and Feng Shui, it can collide just when it comes to, we're talking like trends and the fast fashion kind of interior.
Right. Absolutely. Whereas Feng Shui is more, you know, creating a space that is this beautiful foundation that is solid and grounded and you can build upon versus continually changing out based on trends and the seasons. And absolutely. Yeah. That's when I went to Feng Shui, is when I started to look at the environmental factors at play. And yeah, I think creating a peaceful environment, or one that is long lasting, has this quality and element to it that provides that really healthy, again, foundation to work from. To live from.
Yeah, that's right. It's because the more you learn, I feel like Feng Shui is really a way of living. It's not only something you do to make a nice or beautiful room. It's like I just want more. I can't get enough.
Absolutely.
But how did you discover Feng Shui? Have you always known what Feng Shui was, or?
No, when growing up, I was really, I knew naturally I loved designing my bedroom. That was sort of like my sanctuary, my safe space. Every so often, so periodically throughout the year, I would declutter and then rearrange my bedroom. And I remember vividly in high school, rearranging my bedroom so that my bed could be in any, like in a host of different positions. And the length of time that my bedroom would remain in the same layout would be based off of the quality of sleep that I would have. So at the time, I'm just really just flowing into that energy of what I now would know to be Feng Shui. But at the time, the only reference that I had would be interior design. And that was basically because of the television programs that I was watching at the time. Like on TLC, there was Trading Spaces, and it was so popular. And it was just, it almost like watching these programs, I was just like, wow, what is this? And it was so exciting, and it was fun, and it was creative. And it was a way to put into like a physical sense, like your thoughts and feelings and creative expression. It was so wonderful to witness. And so it wasn't until I was like 10, 15 years ago in my early 20s that I was, introduced to Feng Shui. And it was still along the same lines of watching, at the time it would have been an HGTV, so that's Home and Garden Television here in Canada, and I believe it's in the United States as well, and it may be in Sweden as well. And at the time, there was an episode of House Hunters, and it was a couple that was looking for a home, but it had to have really positive Feng Shui. So they were looking at the house number, they were looking at the position of the bedrooms and the entrance and all the things. And I just remember thinking, wow, like there's more happening and taking place energetically for these spaces. And that was kind of like the little teaser, or like the appetizer into Feng Shui. But then it was really after I had obtained my diploma in interior design that I started to just really open up myself, even spiritually and energetically. At the time, we were beginning our family, and so our children were born, and I just felt like my sensitivity also heightened immensely. And so being sensitive of my space, our family's space, and two, for our children, raising, 3 babies. I mean, they weren't all three, they were babies all at the same time, but raising our family in a space that felt really good and helped, or sort of evolved with us as we've grown and really expanded into ourselves, kind of steered me back into Feng Shui and looking at the value and the benefits that it provided for ourselves. And so that's when I went to school to study Feng Shui and really begin practicing on a professional level, and really looking at our own space at the same time, and choosing different colors and furniture arrangements that were long lasting and not just continually shifting and changing. So I find it really funny because when I was younger, I would move around my space and the furniture layout so frequently. And just in the past maybe 2 years or more, I'm looking around our space and thinking, wow, like the furniture has pretty well stayed in the same layout. Certainly like decor elements have shifted and changed throughout the years, but like it's got this very healthy energy flow that it's exciting.
It's really fun. And I've got so many thoughts now during the time you've been talking, and both oh, my coffee machine is turning itself off. I don't know the sound. No, but I thought just like, since we as people, we change during the whole lifetime, our needs change, and our environment of course needs to be changed as we grow, but also like what you said, maybe the last 2 years, and you have a good base. You don't need to swift it all the time. You can stay in like a ground kind of base.
Absolutely.
And I mean, because I find it kind of hard to hear that inner voice in like how we live today. We got social media, we got interior design magazines and television, and like it's hard to know what I really like and what I really feel good of. But it's like magic when you start to hear that little voice inside of your head or body, or I don't know where the voice sits. But it can, but it's magic when you start to hear it.
Absolutely. And it's wonderful because like what I've noticed through like students that I've taught or clients I've worked with, it's almost like when you start to unfold that bit of magic and that like positive voice of this feels really good, it just sort of creates this domino effect and forward momentum towards creating such a beautiful, and when I say beautiful physically, like, you know, for visually, but also to feel like that beauty of feeling it in your surroundings and feeling that support as well, and empowerment and motivation. It's great.
Yeah. And I thought about that because you have 3 children. Right. Oh my God. I have 1. It's enough. But how would you say Feng Shui have been a help for you during like the toddler years? And
Absolutely. That's a great question because children are very yang, so very active and energetic. And when they were younger, I used to find it very overwhelming. And I do too still some days. Like if there's a snow day, snowstorm outside and we're all in, like it can be a bit overwhelming, I guess, the energy. But I've began creating like soft spaces around our home and ones that are more yin. And in that, it's helping to provide the balance of the yang energy, but also intentionally creating like play zones for themselves and, you know, kind of like activity centers so that they themselves aren't feeling that overwhelmed feeling when, for example, you know, upstairs in our living room, we have a bookshelf. But on this bookshelf, it's about, you know, 70% full, the shelf itself. It's not filled 100% or beyond its capacity. We go through the books fairly frequently, maybe a couple times a year to switch them out so that there's some new learning material there, but that when they do go to this bookshelf, it's easy for them to pull a book off and put it back in, or to even sort through them. And what I found is they're more apt to go to these areas, like the bookshelf, for example, and pull out a book and sit down and read. And so it's also, you know, stimulating their mind, their imagination. It's a nice quiet activity, which would be, you know, incomplete balance or opposite to some other activities taking place, you know, with their toys and video games and all the things. But having that balance and being mindful of it has been so helpful the other big one, and I'm going to share it because assuming there are other parents also listening to our podcast
I think so.
episode. Well, a couple of things come to mind, but one for sure being focusing on our main bedroom. So my husband and I's bedroom, and creating that sanctuary and that space for ourselves, but also us, has been really instrumental at creating that healthy, solid foundation in our relationship, which then provides that grounded sense of security even for our children. So it's been really wonderful in that sense, like looking at our bedroom and sleep is so important. And that's one thing I learned from day one becoming a mom, that sleep is
you don't
vital
get sleep.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I've experienced kind of like the sleep deprivation, and really realizing the importance of having downtime, rest, and sleep. So, and good quality sleep. So not just laying in bed, but feeling like it's easy and effortless to fall asleep as soon as you get in bed, and stay asleep all night and have that deep rest.
Yeah.
It's been hugely beneficial.
Yeah, but it really is. And because I know that, like, being tired, I knew what being tired was before I got our children, but after we got our son, the grade of tired was like in another level.
Yes.
So, but I really like the tip of just to get the bedroom some extra love, and make sure that the bedroom isn't not only a playground for the kids, but it's a bedroom for the grown-ups, and a place where you want to feel calm and the yin energy. Because I believe a lot of my clients, it's just a bedroom are very often not that high of priority.
Right. Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people, they want to make the living room or the kitchen the places where that feel cozy to stay in, because that's where you keep the guests when you have guests at home. But the bedroom is very often kind of depressing.
Yes. It often gets, I've seen that as well, where it often gets left to the last. Where, I mean, of course, having children and a growing family, having pets, like, you know, a social life, your career, there's a lot that can take your attention, but it's almost like the time and energy that's spent by creating that soft environment for the bedroom adds energy and time and restful alertness, like to the other areas of your life as well. So it's like, it's funny because it is a bit underrated from first glance, but then recognizing that it's, oh my gosh, when you have a good night's sleep, the the joy, like in the presence that can come through in any other activity during the day is just like greatly amplified. It's like run to the bedroom and get it set up.
Yeah, but it really is. If you, like, in periods when my son maybe didn't sleep that well, and I mean, I'm really impressed that both parents living alone with their kids and having multiple kids. And when you get like one night of good sleep, when I wake up in the morning, I can almost feel like the life return to me. Because before that, it's just like zombie mode and survival mode.
Survival mode.
Yeah.
I can absolutely relate.
But also a really good tip to have like active parts of your home for your kids too. It's really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how would you say that you use Feng Shui or the knowledge of Feng Shui in your everyday life? Do you have like some routine or
Right. Yes. I love routine and ritual, and it's interesting because I remember years ago, I was in university and I wanted to, be physically active, so go to the gym. And, I could have an at-home gym or I could go out to the gym, but it was something about, well, I now know what it is, but, it was this whole act of intentionally preparing like your bag to go to the gym, and then the drive, and then having your favorite bottle of water with you, and then going in, and those sorts of routines and rituals that's being created just made it much more easier to go and do the things that felt really good. And so I've applied sort of the similar aspect, and I would definitely say this would be the Feng Shui in bringing intentionality into my morning, throughout my day, the evening, even on the weekends, having that flow. And there's a bit of yang in the sense of the structure of setting up the routine and rituals, but this beautiful yin energy, and you can even see this as like the divine, like masculine and feminine working throughout, but with the yin energy just sort of flowing and allowing things to unfold naturally. But in my everyday life, from like a very practical example, I use essential oils and I use beauty products, and I see it very much as like it's an all-inclusive. I think you mentioned this at the very beginning, that Feng Shui is like a way of living.
Yeah.
And I see it, as bringing that intentionality into your life and in sort of infusing the decisions that you make, the routines that you create with that positive energy, and setting up our spaces to help facilitate those routines and rituals and that flow that we live with through the day and night.
Yeah. So what I hear you kind of say when I read between the lines is like, it's more important to add the little extra to the daily routines, and like when you do your morning facial wash, that like just to be there how do you say be present.
Being present. Absolutely. And it's interesting because as my Feng Shui journey began, I was also began practicing meditation and yoga, really working with other practices as well of focusing my energy and being present and being very mindful, and increasing also my self-awareness. And so when I look at our home space today and having Feng Shui included in that, it's very interesting to see where there's opportunities to be more mindful and present, but then also feeling really grateful for those moments and being here with that positive energy, and just really, again, flowing through life and feeling like you can make subtle changes and adjustments to feel balanced and supported and empowered.
I've had in one earlier episode of the Feng Shui podcast, I told the listeners about my story and how I found Feng Shui and how it helps me in my everyday life, and just that knowledge like about the 5 elements can be such a small thing that I do. If I feel sad one day, then maybe I can add a little like a pink sweater because it's like comforting and feels like a hug from my mother. Or or if I just want to, if I need to concentrate, then I can add like something out of metal or white to help my energy flow in right direction.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned the essential oils that you work with. What would you say are the advantages of essential oils, and like how does it cope with Feng Shui?
Right. I love essential oils, and it's been almost 4 years that I've been actively including them in our family's life and home, and offering for clients and offering that guidance as well. And with essential oils, what I really enjoy and love and bringing that into our space is because it's natural. Of course, there are different types of essential oils that you can find out and available on the market, but finding one that is certified pure grade, therapeutic grade is really wonderful, because they're pure and natural, but they're very strong. So it's really only requiring like a drop or two to create a certain vibe or mood, or helping to relieve, a headache or anything like that, but offering that type of vibe that you're wanting to create. So for example, for working at the, creating content or creating art and wanting to be more yang in our presence, then incorporating citrus oils like wild orange, lemon, or lime could be really great at uplifting and cheering our own spirit. And then contrast to that, if we're unwinding, if we're feeling a bit overwhelmed or anxious, then we can incorporate some more calming oils like lavender, like cedarwood, like, trying to think, I was gonna say peppermint, but peppermint, although it can be calming, can be very invigorating and refreshing as well. I do love to work with herbs, so I feel like this is a beautiful complement to including it in your space. And for those who may be seeing the video, or maybe can hear in the background a little bit, but I do have my diffuser going, and in there I have a combination of peppermint and wild orange.
Yeah.
It can be really like motivating and refreshing for the space. And then when we come into the space, or when I come into my office space, then I can feel that refreshed, renewed energy, but also feel motivated and uplifted and inspired when I'm here and creating content, or meeting with yourself today, Tess. So it's been a really wonderful and beneficial addition, and like a really complimentary addition to Feng Shui for myself. And it's been something that I've really gained a lot of value from. And so I love to share that as well. And it's practical. It's taking the time and that intention to select an oil and choose how you want to use it. And so it again offers those moments of mindfulness and being present in our space. Yeah.
And it's really amazing. I heard like in it was, how do you say, a study and studia?
Study.
With people living like in big cities with not that much nature, can feel really bad and depressed because you don't get the benefits of the nature. But with help of essential oils, you can smell like the cedar woods and frankincense, and like help yourself to get positive vibes from the forest, even though you don't have the forest nearby. Like it's really amazing what smells and what essential oils can do for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely like scientifically proven now. It's like the health benefits for, of course, like our mental health, our physical health, even now, our energetic health, and to our spiritual health as well. Like there's other oils you can intentionally use to help connect you to your spirits and whatnot too. So it's yeah, it's wonderful. It's nice that we have access to these tools to really help create intentional spaces and live an intentional life.
Yeah. And I also think like creating memories, because if you add a smell to a memory, then like many years later you can smell the scent and like in detail look back at what happened. Like,
absolutely.
So it's amazing what smells can do. And I love the just peppermint and orange. It's the two of my favorite oils. I always use them, and I gave my mom, because we had like a couple of years ago, we had a lot of things happened in our family, and since I live like 3 or 4 hours away from her, we can't be together. So I made her a little blend of essential oils with orange to make her happier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, like, just last time I went to visit her, she said, like, I love this little oil. Every morning I put some on my hand, and like I can feel the smell, and I think of you and my kids, and like, so it's I just love both peppermint and orange. It's the best.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh, that's wonderful. That's so special.
Yeah, they are. So, but what would you say is the best thing about Feng Shui?
Ooh. The best thing about Feng Shui is that it offers empowerment to those who practice with Feng Shui, because it is a way of living. It's a way of creating your space to feel a specific way. So if you're sad or feeling anxious, to know that there are solutions that you can tangibly incorporate into your life and into your space is incredibly empowering. Rather being a victim perhaps of circumstance, there's ways that you can feel empowered and like you're in, I don't want to say in control because it feels, but maybe that would be appropriate. Feel more in control of your surroundings and how you want to feel and be, and recognizing too, because when I first began practicing Feng Shui as a young mother with young children, it felt very overwhelming to me. But when Feng Shui came into my life, it felt very empowering, and like I had some semblance of control in the sense of looking at our surroundings and creating yin spaces to balance, the growth and the change that our family was going through. And I very much see that as one of the most valuable positives that Feng Shui offers, is that no matter what circumstances that you are in or situations, there is a shift that you can make within your own space to perhaps have a new perspective on the challenge, or to be able to feel empowered and supported enough to overcome challenges or certain circumstances that may be beyond your control, but really allowing you to, there was a quote that came in and then left, but it's not responding to or reacting to the circumstances, but responding to them.
Yeah, I know which quote you mean.
Yeah.
In Sweden we say det är inte hur du har det utan hur du tar det.
Okay.
It's like it's not it's
along those lines. Yeah.
But it basically means that you are always in the position to like take control of yourself in the situation you are in and help yourself with what you have where you are right now. Because I mean, when I work with within kriminalvården with my clients who had been convicted and maybe lost everything in life, a lot of them didn't even have somewhere to live. They didn't have a home. Something maybe for me or for my friends are what I just take for granted. They didn't have it. But I could give them some kind of hope, even though they slept like under a cardboard box. They could maybe get some extra blanket to give themselves some extra comfort. Maybe they could lit a candle or a fire to like give the fire energy to themselves, and small things that they could do for themselves, even though the situation were catastrophic. Like so yeah, I think for me that's what Feng Shui, the best thing about Feng Shui is just that you there's always something you can do to switch the energy to the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, and what really drew me again to Feng Shui was that budget isn't necessarily a defining factor as well. So it is something that you can subtly change or shift within your space that is accessible by everyone. Yeah.
I don't know if the sound, I mean, just want to say that both of my dogs are like snoring behind my back. Sounds like I'm sitting here farting. But it's
I wonder
only
if
my
it's
dogs.
them that I hear. It's almost like a sound of like there's a phone ringing, but I'm like, but I know that my phone's not ringing.
No, it's the dogs.
Maybe it's them.
Both of them snoring, and I don't know which one is worse, so I just sit and like puff them both. But yeah.
That's hilarious. That's so sweet. They're comfortable.
Yeah, they are. So, but now we've gone through like the best about Feng Shui. What would you say is the biggest challenge when it comes to like creating good Feng Shui at home? Or
the biggest challenge that I've certainly witnessed, or like almost like an obstacle to applying Feng Shui, is it's been like a mental block more than anything, in that it seems too overwhelming. So there's almost this perception I've seen before where, you know, to apply Feng Shui to our space, it means completely changing everything, or, you know, it means this, that, or whatever. And it seems too far from what's possible in this moment. And I work with a lot of different clients who are really big visionaries and can see kind of the end results. And that's oftentimes what I'll provide too, is like an end result showing all the changes made, not to, you know, have as like a benchmark, but to see a possibility of the space. Because sometimes when we live in our space for however long, it's like we can have little blinders that go up about the Feng Shui in our space and how things may not be optimal or as efficient or maximized. And so I would say that has been the biggest challenge and obstacle I've noticed and witnessed in my past 7 years as a Feng Shui practitioner. But it's fascinating because in reality, you know, it's just taking however big a steps that you're comfortable with and ready for as you go along. So for someone, like I have worked with one lady who I, you know, gave the recommendations, and she was ready to go well beyond what I had even suggested. But then I've also worked with others where I've, recommended certain things, and it's just taken like 6 months to a year to begin creating those changes. So what I've learned, I guess, throughout the process is it's not necessarily about the speed, but also just feeling confident to take each step as it comes. And simply removing, one book, something that may be small and, not as significant to somebody else may be huge for someone else. So just kind of respecting the process as well.
Yeah. And I think it's a really important reminder to many of us. I helped a woman with a consultation, and it was like her home was really, I found it really overwhelming, a lot of things, and like felt kind of like, where do we start? To like but I just tried to like not go into all of the things. I just saw that we need to change because it's not my home. And just gave her like small things that she could do, like say a wall, and she had 100 paintings, and one of them was like, maybe this one, because I've sensed that if you have a problem with someone in your family, and exactly that painting was showing like a broken relationship,
Absolutely.
just change that painting out to something more made out of love. And my client, she described afterwards that she felt like a really, really big change. Just out of that small thing. In like my eyes, maybe it wasn't really that big of a difference, but in her life and in her eyes, it was a really game changer.
Absolutely. That's a fabulous tip and suggestion as well, because the imagery that we surround ourselves in our space is so impactful and powerful. So that's a really good one.
I had another question, but it flew away. I forgot what it was. Well, maybe we'll come back.
Sounds great.
If someone wants to get started with Feng Shui, what would you say is best to start with?
Okay. Just kind of piggybacking from the challenge that it can be overwhelming. I think that's a really great question, actually. Where to begin? I'll often recommend beginning in the space that first comes to mind for the individual that's interested in applying Feng Shui into their life. However, if it feels like, there are a host of different areas that could use TLC and it can feel a bit overwhelming, I love to begin at the main bedroom or the front door and the front entrance. And I feel like those are two very influential and prominent spaces. And sometimes when looking at these two areas, or any one area in particular, then it can be the reflection of what you're looking to create and emulate in the rest of your home and space. I love looking at the main bedroom because it is such a vital space. We spend most of our day in this one particular, or most of our time is spent in this one area. So the changes made in this space have a dramatic effect in your life. And we mentioned earlier about sleep quality and falling asleep and feeling good in our bedroom. That is huge. Now, if the bedroom is set up and it feels great, and then we can start looking at other areas. And the front entrance is another great example because it is the first, well, it's where the, positive energy enters our space. It's known as the mouth of chi. And so when we have this area set up with positive feng shui, you can again start to bring more energy and positivity into other areas of your home and life as well. And oftentimes, if you're feeling a bit indecisive even, then having these spaces cleared could even give a more clear perspective on where to go next and how things can unfold. Yeah. And that's still a pretty general approach, but I think also by looking at these spaces, you're developing your awareness and of your space and really starting to build that relationship on what feels good, what feels a little crowded, and just bringing your awareness to that has such a profound ability to all of a sudden bring in new creative ideas and solutions. And, all of a sudden, you see the jacket that's been hung up for 3 years that's been there and not used. It's let's declutter this and clear this out. And, so things start to change sort of naturally too.
Yeah. And one thing I think about, when we're talking about a bedroom and the importance of taking care of our bedroom, and when we think about the time we spend there, I also used to say to my clients that when you're asleep, you don't have any protection. You're all open to the negative energies to come get you. When you're awake, you can do things to be aware of the negative things and try to focus on something else, or to don't let the negative energy come to you. But when you are sleeping, it can
kind of more exposed then.
So
that's true too.
And I remembered what the thing was. It wasn't a question that disappeared when the thing we talked about earlier, but it was about taking small steps. Because I do sometimes how do you say, oracle cards?
Oh yes, oracle or tarot cards. Yes, oracle.
And for February, I got a card with sköldpadda, a turtle, who said, "Slow and steady wins the race."
Right.
To not to get things too fast or to make big decisions, or small steps is also a step.
Absolutely.
And I just thought it was a nice reminder, just because you said something about doing small things. It can have a very positive effect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes taking the smaller steps can be the most rewarding way to kind of flow through the changes too.
And I can also, because now the last maybe 6 months, I've had a KonMari consultant who've helped me doing my whole home to declutter and I think about that because I felt really overwhelmed of things that happens during the declutter travel I'm doing. So the positive thing with small steps is that your emotions will have time to come with you on the
process.
trip.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that's fascinating. And you said it's 6 months. So are you is there an end date, or is it just something that you just kind of take step by step?
I had an end date, which was the last of December 2022.
Right.
Here we are in February, and I'm not done quite yet.
Right.
So I had a meeting with her yesterday, and we set a new end date. I said, so my birthday, the 8th of April, is my new end date. Because now I only have like the kitchen left, and sentimentals like pictures mostly, because the other things I've already decluttered. But then I also have my storage outside. Because I cheated a bit and I didn't like pick things in from my storage. Now when it's like snow and really cold, I don't want to stand outside with decluttering my storage. So I'm thinking like hopefully maybe in March it can be a weekend or something with better weather so I can declutter it out there, and then I'm actually done.
That's exciting. I think that's wonderful too, to have your birth date as kind of like, then you're starting a new beginning in the next year of your life. That's exciting. Oh, that sounds so great.
Yeah. So I'm hoping like I'm the only one who can get things done. But I'm also quite good at like procrastinating.
But having someone to work with is great for like accountability and helping things continue to move forward. So I think that's awesome. Yeah, good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, but like this is also, I felt like a receipt of how much things that can happen when you declutter and when you like take care of your home in this kind of way. It can really be overwhelming. So but it's also like, for me it's been mostly positive experiences, but I know that when you make big changes like this, it can also be overwhelming, and it's not only positive effects, because we go through like sorrow, and I become sad sometimes, and like memories show up I haven't thought about in like 20 years or 30 maybe.
Yeah, that's true. And that's, I guess that could even relate significantly to the speed in which, you know, others are able to, you know, clear clutter versus, or make changes in their space, even like the subtle changes, versus those who can kind of go and just keep going real quickly, is allowing for that time in between to process the emotions that do come up and the memories. Because I think a lot of time too, like grief and like remorse and sadness can really be something that takes some time to I don't want to say heal from, but sort of move through is maybe a better way.
And learn to live with.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But what would you say is the best Feng Shui tip to like recover and find balance or take care of yourself? We've touched this earlier in our conversation, but like, do you have any?
Yeah, I could say, let's look at the bedroom. But I really think like the number one tip I would recommend is really, again, developing that self-awareness for sure, and awareness of your space. Not a lot of time sort of is placed or emphasized on this part of it, but then with that self-awareness and looking at our space, really sitting down and creating an intention of how we desire to feel in our space. Because then once we have a clear intention on how we wish to feel, sort of like the embodiment of energy, so whether that could be related to a word or even an image or a scent even, then it's easy to look at our space and make design decisions and choices that are in alignment with the intention that's set. And I feel like without the intention, there's a missed opportunity on creating a space that really fuels yourself and feels really, really good. And, taking time to really process how, again, you desire to feel and all of that it can take like maybe a week, it could take a month, it could take more than that as well. It just depends on, I think, where you're at in your journey and what's required. But that present and mindfulness coming in when designing your space is like the number one.
Yeah. And I thought about that, to have to know how you want to feel and to know how you want to have it in your home. I'm a real sucker for symbols. I love to work with a lot of symbols, to have my dreams like on. You can see the painting in the background is a forest, and these kind of they are symbols for me.
Right. Yeah.
And every year I make like a vision board. And like write down my goals and wishes for the year. Do you work with symbols in some kind of way like that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to see it as like these really positive subliminal messaging throughout our space. And yes, so for instance, like my husband and I's relationship has always been a top priority for our family. And so I have our wedding photos up on display, and I was just thinking of them this morning actually, because oftentimes you set your images up or your photos up or your symbols, like however it's on display in your space, and then I wouldn't say you forget about them, but it becomes less in the forefront of your mind. But this morning I happened to just really look at these photos on display, and it reminded me of the day and all the love and the care and the support that we had around us and how incredibly special it was. And
amazing.
So it's just, yes.
Yeah, but I just love you and your husband, or your whole family, I should say, are like such a big inspiration, because I can feel the love between you when you like.
Thank you. Family's always been like, even before our children were like even conceived or thought of, or even before I even met my husband, like family has been so important in my life. And I really feel like that is like the base of all good things. I want to say. Because like, even myself practicing Feng Shui and having my own practice, like consulting practice, I do it, of course, because it brings me lots of joy, but also I do it for my family, so they can receive the benefits of Feng Shui in their life. But at the same time, my children seeing like the possibilities or the unlimited possibilities of their own life and how they want to work into their career. I mean, they're 9, 7, and 5, so it's still they're pretty young to be thinking like career, but certainly showing them that there's endless possibilities and that they can follow their heart and their dreams and inspiration. Yeah, definitely.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
And now that we're talking about like dreams and inspiration, if you could grant one wish right now, what would it be?
Oh, I immediately think of like a rose quartz and the unconditional love, and spreading that to, well, my mind immediately went to like the whole world. So like a meditation, almost like a loving kindness meditation.
World peace.
World peace. It's like, I don't know, that might be too general. I don't know. But I do think, but I do think, spreading love and kindness, for sure, for others, but even to oneself. So like kind of spreading it, but including myself in that wish as well. So that, when I move and when I, create content, when I, commune or like, meet with individuals like yourself, like that love is present and there as well.
Yeah. Well, that's really wonderful. I love that. And I can agree. I feel the same. And I can see the clock is ticking, so we're gonna try to like wrap it up.
Perfect.
And that last question was like, I believe it's such a nice way to wrap things up, to end with like, I want to know if you could grant one wish, and world peace is like love is a really beautiful way to sum it up, I think.
Right.
And because I experienced that the interest of Feng Shui and like I believe it's growing, and I can feel more and more people are like trying to I believe after COVID and everything, like people are trying to find ways to feel better about themselves and in their homes. And I can see you're nodding, so I
I resonate with that. Yes, I agree. I think sometimes, when, like for myself, when, I was overwhelmed raising young children, it was a contrast that I knew to go in the other direction, to bring more love and peace and beauty really to my surroundings, positivity. And I think, yes, like world events like the pandemic has provided these opportunities to then start to look at new solutions and new ways of approaching designing our space and our life to bring that warmth, that positivity and love into our lives as well. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And before we're ending this, do you have any questions, or is there anything you want to say to me or to the listeners before?
No, well, just kind of to continue a bit from what we've been discussing for the past hour during our podcast episode, is that Feng Shui will meet you where you're at, and there's always a solution to begin creating and adding more positivity into your life. And it's incredibly empowering and motivating, and there is always something within your control to create that shift in your environment and perspective towards the positive.
Absolutely. And I can just add to that Feng Shui has given my life some more depth, or how do you say, like a deeper meaning.
Deeper meaning. Absolutely.
So thank you. That feels like a really beautiful way of wrapping this up. And thank you, Jess, for being a guest in Feng Shui-podden.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure. This time just flew right past. It flew by.
It really did.
Really fun. Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you to the one who has been listening as well. Hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, because I'm so happy. Thank you.